Welcome, everybody. In the name of DHL Supply Chain, I welcome you to the second day of the event of the DHL Transportation Forum 2020. We thank especially the collaboration with our carriers, our clients, and our media representatives. My name is Sergio Morales. I'm Director of Business Development for Latin America for DHL Supply Chain. It will be an honor to have you and Claudia today.
Good morning. It's a pleasure for me to share the stage with you. And good morning, everyone who is joining us. I'm Claudia Marquez, and I'm Senior Manager of the Solution Design Team in the HL Supply in Mexico. I tell you that you can check out the agenda that is available in our website that now you can see on the screen.
And I invite you again to share in social media selfie, photos, comments, or experience on how you're living this event. In your post, please put DHL TFL 2020 with the hashtag to follow the conversation.
This year is very challenging because now we have to show it in a virtual way and alive from our offices in DHL Supplies in Mexico.
For DHL, safety comes first, so that's why these sessions are being held with the social distancing that is expected.
For our first conference, we're going to have a conference from the United Kingdom when Alistair Shooter, who is the Vice President of Global Transport in the supply chain.
This session will be in English, but we remind you that you can select the audio of your simultaneous translation, whether in Spanish or Portuguese, so you can select it in your language that you want it to be in the top part of the transmission. During this session, you can make some questions in the chat that you have below your screen. Please use this space only to make questions with the word question within the text so we can identify it.
Es un placer presentarles a Alistair Shooter, quien es un responsable global de transporte en DHL, que es profesional en la logística. Como el presidente, es responsable de entregar consistentes operaciones para los clientes a través de los 6 continentes para la mayoría de las compañías internacionales en el mundo. Antes de unirse a DHL, él tuvo muchos papeles en el Reino Unido, por ejemplo, y globalmente para Kuehne+Nagel, Espino y otras más. Alastair tiene una licenciatura en negocios de la Universidad de Sheffield Hallam y una maestría.
He's a fellow of the Chartered Institute for Logistics and Transport, which provides a professional platform for networking and mentoring for the logistics industry. So, hi Alastair, how are you?
Doing great, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Bien, muchas gracias. Creo que es la
DHL Transportation Forum that we can enjoy one of your talks. One of the many benefits of this virtual format.
Absolutely, I'm super excited to be part of this. Thank you, Claudia.
I am happy to hear this, Alastair. So, please walk us through the transportation global trends. The stage is all yours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Claudia. So, hello, everyone, first of all, and welcome. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you may be. So today I'll be giving you a view of the global trends in transportation from us at DHL Supply Chain, really how we see the industry today, how customers are shaping the way forward, and how we see the future of transportation. So by the end of this presentation, I hope you will have learned about 2 things. So really how we see the direction of the industry heading in the future and how DHL is part of and really at the forefront of those exciting developments. I think the way that we are thinking about and structuring our approach towards transportation will be interesting for everybody. So let's see and let's go ahead. If we can move to the next slide. So I would like to tell you, first of all, a little bit about our business today at DHL. So today we have a multi-billion-dollar revenue business within DHL Supply Chain, representing transportation. We operate in more than 50 countries around the world with approximately 17,000 employees. So that makes us the largest and the most international transportation company globally. We work across a very broad landscape of customers in all sectors, whether that's providing just-in-time supply to automotive manufacturers, last-mile delivery of food and drink to restaurants and hotels, and also the last-mile delivery of vital medical supplies. So we are a large-scale employer and operator of fleet, and as a result, our social and environmental responsibilities are strategic priorities with clear targets that we continuously measure. And by interacting with thousands of customers and subcontractors partners every day, we have the opportunity to grow our business, especially using our control tower operations, which I know that Juan Adaman has spoken about already. I won't be talking too much more about control towers, but these are really the crucial ingredient to our business, where we really add value to our customers, and we're able to manage our operations safely, efficiently, and with a very high quality service. So if we could proceed to the next slide now. What I would like to do is just give you an idea of the footprint of our business, which is obviously very, very difficult to kind of encapsulate in one PowerPoint slide. But what we're able to observe at global level is a very wide range of expertise and capabilities within our business. And we also see a wide range of trends in local markets that drive that business along with the customer expectations. And I think from a global perspective, what is really interesting is the opportunity to draw on those best practices from all around the world and then apply them into the new markets for our customers and make sure that our local organizations are well trained on how to use these technologies or new ways of working and utilize the experiences that we've learned from elsewhere. So just looking at a couple of examples here, if we talk about Latin America, which of course is a big focus for this event, we have great experience and knowledge in our transportation networks. And we've also been doing work recently with fuel efficient vehicles. If you look at the UK and Ireland region, we have a really strong track record and experience of recruiting drivers and carriers to our business, utilizing the power of the DHL brand. And in the UK, we've very recently opened a site dedicated to transport development that's there to train and provide certification to drivers who are joining DHL. And that's all part of making DHL Transportation an attractive place to work. And in mainland Europe, we're expanding and diversifying the way that we operate our business. Sorry, if you wouldn't mind going back just quickly, into having our multimodal operation. That's all about providing a door-to-door service with truck and rail services. So we can look now at the transportation market and taking a kind of step back at that as an overall. We see that the market is expected to grow, as you can see here, looking at the numbers, particularly in APAC and Asia Pacific region and Latin America regions. Consumer demands are continuing to develop and further grow to challenge our business, but also with an opportunity to grow. We see a huge but historically highly fragmented industry in transportation. So there's still a large number of owner drivers who are often self-employed and buying their own vehicles and operating them themselves in the global freight market. But you can contrast that with very large trucking companies that operate hundreds of vehicles with state-of-the-art IT. So all in all, I think transportation is extremely diverse in terms of the size of businesses that are operating that. And we do see a trend and opportunity for further consolidation in the future years. And also, we shouldn't forget that the numbers represented here are prior to COVID-19. And I think those growth figures are even somewhat conservative. If we talk about technology, I think many of us who work in transportation would recognize that transport has been somewhat behind the curve in terms of adopting new technology consistently, comparing to other industries. But now we're seeing much more and more the use of technology such as the Internet of Things becoming more and more prevalent. So, for example, every delivery driver that you receive at your business or your home address will have a scanner or a smartphone with them. that is actually quite a new thing and hasn't been around for a very long time. And these demands that we see on a consumer level are now driving the expectations for us on a business-to-business level. So a global company like DHL, we're very much leading the way in this space, and we have a huge ambition to grow, obviously, to further our market share. And I think our position as the most international company in the world, as I mentioned, gives us a unique perspective and opportunity to do this. So if we could proceed to the next slide, please. I would like to talk a little bit about really the diversity of the market, and I think it's building on the last slide. And I think that's what makes transportation so interesting, and something that those of us that work in this industry are so passionate about it as a result. And we see a number of topics, I think, that are the same everywhere in all countries and pretty much across the industry. And then we see other subjects that are very much particular to certain geographies or certain types of business. And these are the key factors that we have identified globally that need to be addressed, that are really going to bring transport up to the next level. So if you kind of look at the top left of these boxes here, one of the main issues within transportation and logistics in general, but more especially with transportation, I think, is the use of systems that are used to manage business. And you get the most complex transport management system at one end of the spectrum, all the way down to a pencil and paper, which are still commonly used in a lot of operations, in all kinds of customer operations, all kinds of third-party logistic operations. So the establishment of a common roadmap and way of working is obviously going to be the key to success of that. And kind of linked to that is the way that transport operations are working, so the operating model. And that is very inconsistent wherever you may go. So that can be locally sourced and managed, or having huge centralized control towers managing across large geographies. That's also a big diversity that we see. The other area is around optimization of fleets and networks. And I think that's an area that can still be improved everywhere. We see more and more customers now are much more open to sharing capacity and being more flexible towards how their fleet is combined with competitors, which is one area that will help to improve that. But also transport operators need to work together more closely, need to collaborate more, to look at areas for optimization and improving the utilization of vehicles. And lastly, on the global level, local legislation and business practices obviously play a huge role. And all the kind of regulations around transportation are really driving how the market is shaped, and that also is creating a lot of diversity. If we look at some specific examples that are present in a lot of markets, but not necessarily everywhere. So we see driver shortage is an acute issue, I would say, in the UK specifically and in Europe. It's becoming an increasing challenge for North America, but maybe in other regions such as Latin America and Asia Pacific countries, it's less of a problem. And that's due to the attractiveness and the reputation and the salary levels that people can expect to achieve working as a driver. Shipment visibility, again, is linked to technology, but not all customers experience or enjoy the same quality or flow of information as others in certain markets. And we need to have more mature systems to support this. Driver culture I've kind of already touched on, but that's really about the environment and where young people will see becoming a driver as an attractive career path or not. And then finally, automation. And then automation is really about taking manual processes, particularly administrative activities that you might see, processing of proof of delivery documentation, for example. Whether that can be applied or not often really depends on the local conditions, the local market, often linked to the cost of labor. So again, that's an inconsistent piece everywhere. So just finishing up on this slide, ultimately, our mission as DHL, and maybe by explaining some of those things, you can see why some of them are a challenge. Our mission is to really provide that consistent service everywhere for our customers. So I'd like to talk a little bit now about COVID-19 and how that has come obviously been very high on the agenda recently for everybody, both personally and professionally. And I think at DHL, our business has really come to the fore in terms of keeping the wheels turning during a lot of the lockdown situations and really being able to keep the business running. So clearly the pandemic is something that nobody has expected. But I have been so impressed by the way that we've worked within DHL in our organization to manage this crisis. And I think one of the vital things that we've benefited from is, again, our global scale and the opportunity to learn from other regions where the pandemic has started earlier. And then as it's moved into other areas, we've been able to take those learnings and apply them to our business. So I think the main areas that have affected everybody, so this is not just talking about DHL, but really in the logistics industry, volume fluctuation has been a huge impact. So certain customers, for example, in the automotive industry have seen their manufacturing has stopped, and obviously that has affected a company like us. But food, grocery retail, for example, has really increased, and e-commerce has been an area that's grown massively. In terms of labor resources, having drivers available to actually work and do the work is difficult because many people have been off sick or we're not willing to travel to certain areas to perform deliveries. And we've seen a lot of volatility in purchasing on the market in terms of spot availability and rates. So that's buying subcontractors at the last minute has been increasingly challenging. So to get trucks is very hard. And we've also seen a lot of changes, some of which have had a positive impact in terms of driver's hours and access restrictions, so that we are able to still keep working. So some of that has enabled us to work more effectively. And for example, in Italy, where we have a life science and healthcare operation delivering into the major cities, that has been actually a beneficial thing for us to keep those operations running, as I mentioned. And then also a big economic factor is fuel price, which is somewhat volatile, and we actually saw some interesting developments in the fuel price a few months ago, which I think now is starting to come back to normal. So I'll just talk a little bit more about some of the things we've done to mitigate these challenges. And there has been a lot of work done on this, and you'll see some of that on our DHL website. I'm sorry, would you mind going back to the previous slide? Just quickly. Can we go back? Okay, maybe we can't. Okay, so I will talk now about what, yeah, here we go. Thank you. I think there's a slight delay on the line. Just wanted to talk about what we're doing here in terms of health and safety. So that's about having proactive safety measures, particularly for our drivers and for the vehicles themselves, keeping them clean and avoiding too much contact in the working environment. The movement of goods has all been about monitoring of border waiting times, looking at how we can change the handling conditions for loading and unloading vehicles, and really actively managing fleet restrictions that we may have. For the employees, it's really around monitoring absenteeism and making sure that we let people work from home, allow them to do that if that makes sense for certain support functions, and giving people that flexibility in the workplace. And then, as I mentioned, the final point, really around best practice sharing and making sure that we learn from what happened in some regions and take it into the other ones. So we can move on now to the next slide, if that's okay. Great. Thank you. So the real important litmus test for us and a measure of success is what our customers say about the impact of the pandemic and how our business is able to manage that. And I think as a global trend in transportation, what we're seeing is that listening to the customer and taking account of their needs is a crucial driver to improving our business. And I mentioned before that transportation has not necessarily been so much leading in terms of adopting technology. But I think also in terms of a customer-orientated approach as well, transportation has not really been seen at the forefront of that. If you say customer service, you don't immediately think about transport, I would say. So what we do is we measure feedback at DHL on an ongoing basis, and all customers that work with us have the opportunity to provide this feedback through a regular survey. And there are individual comments here that are often read, in fact, and filtered down by our CEO and very senior management. So everybody gets to see that information. There's a few here that I've pulled out from our transportation customers, which I think reflect how we've performed during COVID-19. And this feedback is really vital for us to drive continuous improvement and make sure that we're listening. And it also acts as an extra encouragement to our teams to let them know when their hard work is recognized. So to all of our customers out there who are on this call, we are listening, we do use the data, and we are reading the comments. So for good or bad, that is the case, and that is really important feedback that we use. So if we could move to the next slide, please. And I just wanted to now kind of say how all of those things that I've been talking about, so in terms of trends and then customer need evaluation, how we kind of use that information to change and adapt our business. And especially now when we see the landscape of business changing so much during COVID-19, we need to be taking account of that and changing the way that we do things. So with our global footprint, it kind of puts us in the pole position to see how the customer trends are developing in different markets and how we can apply that to our business. And the key to our success is then applying them into new markets with a recipe that we know really works. So we try something that works in one place and we take it and use it in another. So supporting all of that is making sure that we have the processes, the systems, and the people to make it happen. And then we roll that out using our transport community. And that is really about having a clear market need and proven solutions that work well. I'd like to talk a little bit about a couple of these trends that we see happening. So I think one of the main ones is that we're going to see more trucks and own fleets on the road as a result of COVID-19. So that's going to be increased consumer demand, more last mile solutions needed, particularly to support e-commerce. That's going to be one trend. I think another one is around restructuring of supply chains, whereby a lot of manufacturers will want to be having production closer to the point of the customer to avoid the potential for disruption. So again, more local transportation to do that, where previously those products may have been shipped by air or by sea. And as I mentioned, I think a couple of times, business to consumer solutions like two-person delivery are really expecting provided within that two-person delivery are also further developing. So somebody may not come to your property and just drop something and go. They'll come and install it and make sure that it works for you and really get it going. So I'm going to move on to the next slide now. It seems on the environmental topic, which is obviously here where I'd like to underline DHL's commitment to the environment. And we strive as a business to protect the planet with our involvement in transportation. We obviously have a key part to play in that. So by 2025, we will have improved our carbon efficiency by 50%. We'll use clean air solutions for 70% of our last mile solutions. And the way that we sell and change will change, and half of our solutions will incorporate green solutions, as you can see on point 3 there. And to support all of that, we're investing into training our employees. So 80% of them will be Go Green specialists. So that means a real investment for the company to ensure that people know and understand this really important topic. So this for us as a business is a non-negotiable. And so far regarding point 1, especially, which is my principal area of interest, we're already ahead of our plans. We're systematically investing in green fleets around the world. And one of the key elements of my role and from a global perspective is to make it easier for our business to sell and more attractive for our customers to buy. I think that's the critical success factor for fuel efficiency and green solutions in logistics in general, getting those commercial models really working well. So by 2050, DHL will be a zero emissions business. Okay.
Hacer todo esto, estamos entrenando a nuestros empleados. El 80% de ellos ya han tomado nociones sobre
how we innovate our business. So I talked earlier on in the presentation that innovation is a key area that we work on. I've got some short examples that show here how we take best practices and really adopt them globally. And I've got a few here. Again, it's just a snapshot, but you can see if we talk about Latin America, once again, most important region for this session, we can see that the team has really led the way in providing that end-to-end customer view for our transport operations. And that's something that we're able to adopt and use elsewhere in other markets. So that's something that we've had for a while, but we're now taking and using elsewhere. In the US, we're working very closely, and we hope to announce some exciting news soon about how we're advancing in the autonomous vehicle space. That's something that is talked about a lot within the industry, and I think there's a huge potential there for that to really make a difference in logistics. Not in the very short term, but certainly in the medium to long term, that's going to be coming, and DHL we want to be part of that. And just touching on another one, in Asia Pacific region, we use robotic process automation to not only reduce costs, as I was talking about before, but that's really also about eliminating mistakes. So if you have mistakes, that causes lost time, and then you have to go back and identify the root cause. If it's done in an automated way, also you don't have mistakes, and that can make your operations much more efficient. So there is a lot going on everywhere, as I said, and I think traditionally a space that has not been as forward-thinking as other industries, like I mentioned before, we see a huge potential for improvement, a huge amount going on all around the world to really optimize our business. So I'm going to end shortly. If we can move on to the last slide here. I'd just like to leave you with some of the key points of our strategy, actually. And we've got 4 hashtags that support that. So we have connected people, execution edge, delighted customers, and own tomorrow. And that's how we structure the way that we think about our business today and how we want to take it forward. So hopefully, as a result of what I've talked about, you'll have learned a little bit about the scale and scope of our business today, and also seen that innovation and the drive towards standardization are crucial to bringing success to us and our customers. And I've really enjoyed the opportunity to speak to you all today, and I'd just like to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alistair. And now we have some questions from the public, so stay with us, please.
Of course.
Quisiera dejar algunos de los puntos claves de nuestra infraestructura y tenemos 4 hashtags que soportan la idea y la ejecución. Así es como estructura.
Okay, Alistair, so we have one of the questions. So one of the questions is, in your opinion, how is Mexico leading the innovations in the transport sector?
Yeah. So that's a really interesting topic. I mean, I think within DHL, we have a really strong base of operations in the automotive industry. So automotive is really about time-sensitive logistics and having that 100% reliability that a customer can guarantee every time. So I think in that respect, we are really strong in our DHL operations, and that's something we've learned from a lot in different regions. Probably another area as well is around carrier management and really managing that successfully through a control tower. I've talked about connected control towers, and Juan talked about it as well. That is a really gold standard within our business. So it's really the showcase side that we have within our business. So managing business essentially through a control tower, having excellent quality operations, that's where we're really strong. I've seen that in our Mexico business.
That's great. Thank you very much, Alistair. I also want to take advantage to see if you could send a message to congratulate our business partners in Mexico. They are a great part of this company. So do you have a message for them?
No, thank you so much. I mean, without our business partners, you know, we will be in a very difficult position. So we rely on them every day as they rely on us. And thank you so much. Yeah, we really appreciate all of that, all of your support. And we look forward to the future working together.
es nuevo en el negocio.
Thank you, Alastair. This has been a very interesting talk.
Y
On
dentro
behalf
de
of
nuestro
DHL Supply
negocio
Chain
eso
Mexico,
va a
I
cambiar
thank you for
para
sharing your
manejar el
message
negocio,
directly from
la
UK.
torre de
Have a
control
great evening.
conectada. De esa manera
Thank you,
nos
Claudia. It's
vamos
been
a
a pleasure.
fortalecer en el negocio
Enjoy the
mexicano.
rest of the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Muy bien,
Wow.
gracias,
Great
Alistair.
talking to you.
También
Thank you very
quisiera
much, Alistair.
aprovechar
Y también les
si pudieras
agradecemos a
mandar
todos
un
los que se
mensaje
conectaron a esta
nuestros
conferencia
socios de
y los
negocio en
invitamos a
México, son
permanecer
una
en las
gran parte
siguientes
de la
sesiones.
compañía.
Nuestro
¿Tienes un
próximo
mensaje para ellos?
panel lleva por nombre Los retos de
The next panel will be the challenges of companies in the new normality. We'll be waiting for you. Don't miss it. Thank you.